It's Monday. 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 Okay, so it's Monday morning, and every Monday morning I come in with my setup class, and we go through how to start your very own staffing agency business. Staffingpreneurs Academy has been around since 2013. I've had around 4,000 students over the course of that time come through Staffingpreneurs Academy. At one point in the very beginning, the academy was lifetime access, meaning everyone who signed up would be in the academy forever. Over the last 5 years, we've changed that process, and people come in on a 6-month time period. So they come in stints. I leave it open, but everyone comes in on a 6-month time period, and they have 6 months live classes, and then they roll out of the live classes or they stay. Most people roll out of the live classes. I have maybe 5 or 6 staffingpreneurs that have been with me every month since 2015, 2014, and have been paying that monthly bill. Thank you. And just having access to the academy in the way that they need, in the event that they need it. Most of those people are in my Run It class. And so this setup class is for individuals who are in the setup process. And I want to talk a little bit about that before I introduce everybody or welcome everybody in and we officially get started. The setup class is for people who are looking to set up their staffing business the right way, right? In compliance and do things appropriately. The class is also designed to motivate you and to make sure that you're fired up and inspired and doing things, and staying focused. I would say that day. And staying focused, because the hardest thing, in my opinion, to do when you are starting a new business and getting things off the ground is figuring out, am I going to be able to do this? Can I do this? Am I capable? You start to have those kind of thoughts and different things like that. And my goal is to ensure that you feel comfortable in knowing you can absolutely do this, because you can. Keeping people on their A game and just being a resource, to you all as you need it while you're here. My knowledge goes far and beyond probably the average person in staffing, because I think I love it in a different type of way. And so I want you to utilize me. Over the last month or so, I've been going live every Monday. I know a lot of my staffingpreneurs will show up live on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, because it's more convenient than logging into the academy. And I'm okay with that. But at some point, I'm not going to go live anymore, probably very shortly. We're going to continue to re-record the live academy, and once that's done completely, then I probably won't go live with these classes, and you're going to have to come back home if you want to continue to come to class. For people who had this class and they're no longer taking a live class, I know you're feeling amazing about this, because you get to chime in and still get the best of both worlds. And so I just want to say welcome to you. I want to say welcome to everybody here that is live, everybody who's watching the replay. The replay will be posted inside of Reskillify if you missed it, or you can catch it on the replay on whatever platform that you're watching for these last couple of weeks. And so, I want to, so if you're live, I want to say thank you. Good morning, Alexis, and just say, let me know where you're chiming in from. What's your niche? I would definitely love to know. And I just want to say welcome to everybody in my class just one more time. So today is a very interesting day, because I really want to talk about my checklist. So y'all know I do a master checklist. And now that we are updating the academy, I'm in the process of revising that checklist, just based on the feedback that I got back from people, with the first checklist. The feedback was great. because my checklist was designed really for me when I go out and I launch somebody's staffing business. And I still need to keep it that way, right? Because I do things in a certain order and a certain type of way. But I wanted to expand the checklist so that it's also beneficial for you all. So I'm going to share a little bit of this checklist with you and go through some of it today, because this is the setup class. And a lot of times people think they're fully set up, or they think they have it all together in regards to it being set up. And I want to remind you that there are probably things that you're not even thinking about that that you need to have in this business in order, to set up in this business in order for things to work right. So I'm going to share my screen in a second, but before I share my screen, I got to say two things. One, my computer is running out of space. So y'all are gonna see this little thing pop up on my screen that says you're low on disk space. Don't judge me. I'm gonna try to turn it off, and I'll go get my Mac after my clients today or tomorrow because I'm super booked. But but that's the first thing. See, it won't even record. It's like you're done. Okay, so it's not going to record on there. So I'm hoping that I'll just be able to use the YouTube version. The second thing is, if you're new to my channel, thank you, Alexa. She said it. She's in Houston, Texas. My largest market is in Texas. If you're new to this channel, my name is Dee Williams, and I help professionals set up, grow, and scale their businesses. And today we're talking about staffing. So yes, definitely chime in. What's your name? Where you're chiming in from? I definitely want to learn more about you, hear from you. And for my class, anybody who has questions, please let me know. Put it in the inbox. You can also open your mic if you want. As people are coming in throughout this class, if they're running late, please don't. You can continue to acknowledge them as well. And so forth. I really don't mind that at all. And just make sure you say your hellos and your welcomes and all that great stuff. Okay, so I'm about to share my screen, and we're going to go over this checklist, because what we're really talking about at the end of the day, I'm going to do two screens here. What we're really talking about at the end of the day is setting up, your staffing business. Byron, did you say something? Did somebody say something? Oh, okay. I thought so. Who's that? Amber? No. Okay, okay, I'm hearing things. All right, hold on. So let's go in. Okay, so I hope on stream y'all can see my screen. Put a 1 in the box, Alexis, and anybody watching, to see if you can see my screen. And then on my client side, let me share with you so you can see this checklist. And so this is similar to the checklist that we have on Staffingpreneurs Academy, the master checklist, but this is not the master checklist. Just FYI, this is the new checklist that is coming in, and I'm really excited because, hey, Miss T, because this checklist is going to hopefully be a lot better than the one that we had before. Okay, so now all my people can see their stuff. Okay, so I think everybody can see everything. I think my checklist is very visible. So this looks very similar to the last checklist. I made a copy of the last checklist here. As you can see, I already started messing it up. But this is what it originally looked like with the check boxes there. And you could kind of go through and see all the things that we need to do in that check box. And when we, like I stated earlier, we got feedback, and people were like, everybody, I guess, doesn't receive information in the same way, which I totally understand. My mom's a teacher, my brother's a teacher, my sister-in-law is a teacher, everybody in my family's a teacher, right? So they always talk about how everybody learns differently. And so I started looking at different ways to present the content. Like, this is task 1, task 2, task 3. I started putting in different spaces. It just got overwhelming trying to find ways to accommodate everyone and what they needed. So the original dashboard is going to stay the same. It's going to be a little bit different in the next layer, and that's what I'm going to talk about today, what we're going to add on. So it's not going to be just the checklist of what you've completed, what you've not completed, and what's not applicable to you. And as you can tell, my number's a little funky because I'm rearranging everything. And the individual categories are going to change a little bit because I want to make it a little bit more intense. Okay. So first things first, with this new checklist, I've added a couple of fields, a timeline, so that you can start to identify how long it's taking you to complete a particular portion of a particular task. And then just how long it should take, right? So how long, day one, and timeline. And I think this will be very important for people coming in like, what do I do, D? I need things step by step, one by one, which to me, it is step by step. But I guess for other people, it doesn't come across very clearly. So that's the first thing that I added. And then the task number, and then what the task is, and then the assignments under the task. Okay. So that's going to be something that's different. We didn't have the assignments the first time. We just had the task. But because of the way the system is built, it allows you to track your tasks and your assignments. Even in the new system, it'll be that way as well. So we wanted to separate the tasks from the assignment, and I'll go through these just to see if you're on the right page, just to start up in the beginning, and then also to get y'all's feedback. Okay. Then the next thing that I added was, okay, wait, I need to be looking at the chat. Okay. Sure. Let me make sure. Oh, that okay. So okay, perfect. Let me go back. I got all my chats here. When will the new? Okay, hold on. We can get there in a second. Give me 1 second. So the next thing that I want to add is the course number. So in the academy, because this checklist is really designed for me, D. Williams, and my legacy and beyond clients, the ones where we go in and set up your staffing agency for you. I want to continue to keep it as my main checklist, but I'm going to share it with you all. And so I'm going to add where the course number is, like where the course and the lesson number is on this side. Oh, I'm sorry, the course here. And this is, we just added this one, which was the monthly cost. So some things, when you're starting your business, it requires money to actually bring it to life. And people are always asking me, and when we set people up in the academy, we always are very transparent about how much it's going to cost, in the business, for coaching, and how much you're going to need additionally to set up your business and different things like that. Most costs are monthly, but some, you can also buy them for the year. But at the end of the checklist, we're going to create a total so that you can kind of see what we estimate that cost to be, right? Based on the things that we're actually putting together. It could be more, it could be less based on how you decide to set things up for yourself. So it'll have a monthly cost, it'll have the course number. And then of course we'll go in and we'll still have the checklist for complete, need to complete, and not applicable. And then the last one is going to be date completed, because I think it's important to note for yourself, for you to notate when you completed the task. Why? Because a lot of staffingpreneurs are not actually like holding themselves accountable, right? You're not holding yourself accountable to actually show up and do the work. And period. You're not holding yourself accountable. So I want you to see, how long does it take you to go from task A to task B? Because for some of you, it takes you a whole month to get to task B, and then you'll wonder, why haven't I set my agency up? Or why is my agency not making any money? Because you're not actually completing the tasks. So I think it's not enough to just say, this is what I've completed, or this is what I need to complete. But the date that you complete it, you're going to log it in. So this is how the new one is going to look. Y'all going to see the new one, and it's pretty. Right now, I got to still make it dirty and put my notes in there and stuff like that, so my designer will know how to update it the way I want it to. So now that I've given you an idea of like how exactly this thing is going to work, and it'll have a couple of more bells and whistles, I want to take the time today to go through the startup list. It is very similar to the original checklist. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not much difference because these are still the same things that have to be done. But I feel like with the assignments, I've just gotten a little bit more detailed into the way that it needs to be done, like just a lot more detailed, to be honest with you. And so let's go through it so you'll have a good understanding of where things are. So if you feel like, okay, I'm using the old checklist, okay, that's fine. You can still continue to use the old checklist. This is the same thing on the old checklist. It's the exact same thing on the old checklist. Now, there are a few new things like AI related, but they still come further down the checklist. So you're not missing anything. And so don't worry. I think that's the first thing I want to say about that. So now the first thing that I feel like that everyone should do is learn how the business works. Most people have their own idea of how the business works. And even after I showed them this checklist, which I'm hoping my computer will allow me to do, they still have the wrong idea of how the business works. So I'm going to show you not a PowerPoint, but I'm going to show you give me 1 second, just to give you an idea of, where is my, just to give you an idea of how it looks. And I really wanted the, oh yes, something is going on with my drives. Everything has been moved. My whole life is falling apart over here. Hold on, let me go into one of my clients' folders because I got it in everybody's folder. Let's see. Yes. I'm gonna go into there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so everyone, I don't have my original sheet because I can't get my presentations open. Of course not. But most people think the business is like very simple, like they're you just place people, right? But in actuality, it doesn't really work that way. There are 3 journeys to the business that you are creating. And that's what it looks like. But I'm going to go into this in detail. There are 3 journeys to the business that you're creating. And this is something that you have to understand from the very beginning because it sets the foundation for what you are building. Okay. So the first things first. Okay. First things first. You have your journey. Your journey is the one in the middle here. And your journey manages both the journey above you and the journey below you, your candidate journey and your client journey. So your company is doing everything to make sure that these 2 people meet. That is really the goal. Okay. And it's really driven by the employer, but the product is the candidate. And that's one thing that you got to remember. The process is really driven by the employer because the employer pays the bill. But the product, who you're selling, what you're selling, the core of it is the candidate. Okay. It's people who you are putting into work, putting into full-time jobs, contract jobs, per diem jobs, whatever, travel jobs, whatever the case may be. And what I did was I put together a roadmap so that you can have a realistic view of what's involved in the business and the process. And so when you meet people here on YouTube or other coaches, they're going to have 4 or 5 little bullet points on one little roadmap. And that is inaccurate. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's not true. And or let me just say it is true, but they're not giving you the full perspective. And here I want you to have the full perspective because that's really the only way you're really going to be able to scale the business. And I don't believe setting people up for a 1-person business. You are financially going to be set up as a 1-person business, but the way we structure you here in the academy, it is for you to learn your business, for you to train people, for you to hire people, train people, and have them run your business. So it's really built more for scaling than it is for you to just, run your own business. Okay. Because you're here to become an entrepreneur, not to be an employee of yourself. Right. And a lot of people get caught up in that where they start this business and then they work the business so long and so hard that they never hire anybody and they always stay on this hamster wheel and they never make any money. They never get past a certain point. Most of my clients who are over the $1 million mark, they have at least 1 or 2 employees on their on the boards. Now, have I had clients that have done more than $1 million by themselves? Yes. Have I had clients that have done 5 million by themselves? No. 4 million? Yes. But with lots of sacrifices and things that you wouldn't want to lose for that, right? But I wouldn't, you pretty much going to kill yourself if you do that. So you really want to focus on setting the business up so that you can scale. Even if it's not 50 to 100 employees or whatever, you still want to set the business up so you can scale. So let's go through these just a little bit before we go to the next part of the checklist, because I think this is very important for you to understand and for me to consistently put into your heads, right? So let's start with your candidate journey. Your candidate journey is very simple. These are the things that your candidate is going to go through as it goes through your business. And while I'm not going to go through every bullet point, I feel like you got to come to class for that. I do want to tell you a few things that are very important. When you, as the staffing agency here in the middle, are setting up this business, if you're not thinking about the journey that your candidate is going to go through and the journey that your client is going to go through, you're already 10 steps behind. That is the most important thing for you to remember. Okay. You've got to be thinking about that. And each bullet point represents a process on this chart. So talent attraction, there's a process to that. How the candidate applies, there's a process to that. How the applicants may join your social media group, if you have it, there's a process to that. All of these things, there's a process to that needs to be written out and to be established for your business so that as people are coming in, they know what to do. And so as you are coming in and running this business, you know what to do. Okay. That is what's important. And that's some of the things that are, Byron, are you there? Okay. Y'all got to mute your phones. We can hear y'all. I just want to let you know we can hear you live. So you might want to mute your phones. We can absolutely hear you. Okay, great. I got people coming in. Okay, everybody's coming in. That's perfect. So that's very important for you to understand, right? That that these are processes that you want to write out, to understand and write out. Now, you may not use all of these, and it's specifically at the beginning of the journey for both the candidate or client. These are me just giving you suggestions, giving you a cheat sheet, to be honest with you. It's up to you to define how you're going to acquire talent. But I believe that there are a few ways to acquire talent. So again, I wanted to give you a cheat sheet. And the reason that I say that is because if I open this up a little bit more, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. As you can see right here, you have 3 types of candidates. You have an active candidate who's looking for work. You have a semi-passive candidate. They're not looking, but they're open to talking to you. And you have the passive candidate. They're not looking and they probably don't want to talk to you. Okay. And so you have to you connect with these people on a different way. You attract them differently. The way you attract someone who's active is not how you're going to attract someone who's not even looking for a job. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Put a 1 in the box if that makes sense. You really honestly and truly have to think about, okay, for people who are actively looking, that's the easiest one. You post. Right? You post, they're actively looking. You put your brand out there, they're actively looking. You bring them in. You're semi-active. Yes, some of them are you can post, and some of them will maybe apply, but they're happy in their current job. They're open, but they're happy. So 9 times out of 10, they're not going to apply, which means that you've got to engage with them in a different way. And that's when you start to really get out and start to source and start to look at how you're attracting talent in different ways. This is where your digital assets come into play for your candidates. This is where your live assets come into play with your candidates. This is where it gets very real. This is where you have to have strategy. It's not just about picking up the phone and dialing all day, every day. That's a part of your strategy and or in addition to your strategy. But that's your strategy, right? This is where you start off at. You've got to have strategies. A lot of people are starting businesses with 0 strategy. None. It's all. Their strategy is let me just call people. And it goes beyond that. How do you attract the people who are not actively looking? Now, you might be saying, well, Dee, don't I only want to talk to the people who are actively looking? And the answer to that is hell no. Because if you are only talking to the people who are actively looking, then if the employer has posted the job as well, they're going to get the same group of people. So why would they pay you to get the same group of people that they're already going to get on their own? Make it make sense. It doesn't. They're not. It's not. Okay. So you got to think about, yes, I do want to attract those people and maybe the people that the employer is not seeing, but I also need to attract talent that the employer is not going to see, that they haven't gone out of their way to reach out to. That's why you're creating strategies to find different ways to connect with talent that maybe other agencies or other recruiting departments and other employers don't have the ability to connect with or have not connected with them. And now you're presenting somebody they haven't already seen. Now you're presenting someone, potentially with that carries a little bit more value than what they've already seen. And this is what sets you apart from the average recruiting department. So most recruiting departments only stay here. They stay looking for the active candidate, and that's all they can really do because they have so many jobs on the table. But you don't just only focus on the active, you focus on the semi-passive and the passive. And that's when it helps you to get to the next level. This is when you begin to offer things in a very different type of way, in a more high-end type of way, right? And that way your value becomes larger. You can charge more, right? You can do things at a totally different level. And that's what you want. It's not just about who's actively looking. It's also about who's not actively looking. Now, one more thing. And I'll just stay there. So that's kind of your first area. So you want to go in and find all talent. Okay. And in the future, I feel like this talent is going to be more valuable than the active, but that's just my personal opinion. Once you get them into your system, now the next part of the process is to start to assess them. Again, this is where you have to come in and to define how you're going to assess people in a way to where it makes sense on how you're delivering that talent to the employer. So it's not enough to just do an interview. If you're doing that, you're being very lazy, and the employer can do that on their own, although you are saving them time and money by doing that. But that should not be enough. Like, your business should be built around how you recruit and evaluate, how you find, recruit, and evaluate talent that are specific to that market. So you'll see in the academy, we talk about how to build your secret sauce and what sets you apart. How you attract talent is one of the things that sets you apart. How you evaluate that talent is one of the things that set you apart. Most people are not thinking about that. In the academy, we talk about how you can set yourself through the evaluation process. People need to be evaluated before we submit them to an employer to make sure that they're the right fit and to make sure that they're going to stay. And not just from a technical perspective, but also from a cultural perspective. And when I say cultural, I'm not talking about race, religion, or anything like that. I'm talking about the culture of that company. Every company has acquired or created a specific culture to their business, and not everybody fits into that culture, and so you can hire a candidate who does everything the right way, but culturally they don't fit into that company. And when I say that, I'll give you just a brief example, something very similar. Because I worked with this company before, recruiting for them, and they were very close, like a family type company, to the point where every Wednesday and Friday they did things together after work. Nobody went home in the entire company. Like, they all did ping pong on one night, or pizza. Every Friday night was pizza night, pizza and beer. The guys played basketball. The girls all joined, I think, a tennis team. But everybody in the company was involved. And we put a person in there. I did. This person had zero desire to involve himself into the business like that, right? They really just wanted to go to work and come home. And so they didn't work out because it made everybody else uncomfortable, and it made that candidate uncomfortable as well. So while they could go in and they could do the job, it was just like culturally he didn't fit in. So we had to go back and find people who wanted to be involved in those types of things, who wanted to be a part of the culture, and that was important to them, and they could do the job. So that's just a very light example, but that's a very clear example of how culturally at work things can be a little bit different. If somebody is used to, a very structured company, and the company you're putting them into is chaotic, that ain't going to work, even if they can do the job. Typically, in order to put someone into a chaotic role, they have to have come from a chaotic role and have been able to successfully live and work in that type of environment, and not just live and work in that environment, but excel in that environment, right? So all of those things are very important. So the assessment, making sure that you're getting and finding the right talent. So we found the talent. Now we're assessing that talent, and now you're going to get that talent over to the client, depending on the job. So this is a major piece in staffing, your submittals. If you're not submitting candidates, you ain't making no money. I can tell you that factually. So for everyone who's saying, why am I not making money? How many submittals are you making per week, per day, per month? Because if you ain't making none, you ain't making no money. And how you submit your resume to the employer, unless you're per diem, PRN, your shift work, you're probably submitting that resume to the employer for him to check out or her to check out. And so how you submit that resume is very important, because you're still selling your candidate at this process. The goal is to show how the candidate is a fit, and to get them to the interview and throughout the interview process. And so that is something that I want to make sure you understand. That's why it says the submittal. Because that's a big deal. Okay. That's a big deal. And I broke all those stages out so you could see. So then now the candidate and the client, they go and interview. There's a process to that. It's not just, hey, y'all are meeting. There is a full step-by-step process of the things you want to do to submit the candidate, to brief the candidate, to help the candidate through the interview with the client, what they're supposed to do before, what they're supposed to do after, what they're supposed to do during, all of those things. And you might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different interviews, that one candidate with a particular employer. Very important for you to know. So still that process would be kind of similar, but there are other things that you're going to want to do behind that. Then once the candidate accepts and or declines, because that could happen too, there is a process for that, and getting them through the credentialing and onboarding with the client, whether it's direct hire or contract. Our job is to make sure that they get to work, that they actually start, that they onboard, and that they get through the first 1 to 3 months of work, bare minimum. When we want them to be there forever, but we are hoping that they're a strong enough fit that they last through the guarantee period, or that we don't have to replace them very quickly. This is the fit that we're looking for. We're saying that they're the fit. We've gone through the evaluation, so we need to make sure it's a fit. Now, with that being said, going through the evaluation is only as good as your intake with the client, but we'll get to that in a second. I just want to make sure that you understand that that's very important as you're thinking of starting your staffing business. That's why I said step 1 is understanding how the business works. Most people do not understand how the business works. You have your own made up fairy tale version of how this business works, and it's just not true. There are layers, and every bullet point is a process. It's a step-by-step process of things that have to be done. So now here, just like on the candidate side, this is a cheat sheet for you. I just put together ways that you can acquire the employer, acquire the contracts, right? And how you can attract them and source them. Same thing with the candidate, how you can attract them and source them. The client is the same way, how you attract them and source them. And so there are very different ways that you can do that, but you just got to remember that that prospect is also being courted by other agencies. So it's not enough for you to just say, my strategy is to post social media posts. Get out of here with that. Okay. That's very lazy. I'm going to just keep it real with you. Or I'm just going to make phone calls. That's very lazy. I'm going to keep it real with you. The internet is free advertising and free marketing. And while in some instances you may have to pay for it, you've got to create strategies and ways for people to see you and for you to sell your business on behalf of you in a digital way, whether that be through digital assets, live assets, whether that be through, whatever, however you're going to do that. It needs to make sense, and you need to have a strategy around it. I really don't like it when staffingpreneurs come to me, I got to get the business up right now. And it's like, okay, you get the business up, but you have zero strategies on what you're going to do once you get the business up. So you're going to just bang it out and just keep calling people, not giving yourself an opportunity to receive leads as you're going out and trying to get them. That doesn't make sense when you're trying to build the business out and you're trying to grow it to scale. So let's start off with, let's do both. Let's make sure that while we're going out, banging the phones and the emails and looking for them, we have another strategy on the back end, another system or process on the back end that is helping to generate leads for you, to bring leads inside of the business for you, to get the word out around you for you. And we talk about a lot of different ways to go about that. I think I even have a video here on YouTube that goes into that as well. But that is the first part of the process: attract employers and to source employers. Okay. Then you want to go in and get the meeting. So for the sales team, the goal is to get the meeting. The goal is to get the meeting. The goal is to get the meeting. If you don't have any meetings on your calendar for employers, you're probably not making submittals and you're probably not making any money. So the goal is to get booked meetings on your calendar and to get them to show up. So there's a process to get them on the calendar. There's a process to get them to show up, because they can get on the calendar and never show up. There's a process of what to do after you get them on the calendar and you're following up to get to the negotiation stage, to get the contract signed. Okay. So there's a lot of things you got to do to make sure that happens. And then once you get the contract signed, the very next step is to onboard the client. And almost 99.9% of my clients of staffing agencies do not onboard their client. It's shameful. It's shameful. It's like and then you get mad when the client doesn't do what you want them to do, but you never onboarded them. You never went over the rules. You never had a onboarding process for your client, but you have a strong one for the candidate. So your client can quit you too. Your client can be unhappy too. If you don't have a relationship with the client, you can submit 1 million resumes and they never even respond back to you. Okay, so you've got to do that client onboarding. And that also ensures that the client is really serious about working with you, because there's a lot of situations where companies will just sign contracts with staffing agencies and they've got 1 million contracts with 1 million agencies. It's like, okay, I'm signing it here, and then you'll never hear from them, or they're ignoring you, or whatever the case may be. Understanding, defining your process, letting them know you have a clearly defined process during the contract signing process. Hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the calendar now for your onboarding meeting. And building that relationship with them is going to be very valuable to you throughout the entire process. Once you go ahead and you get that onboarding and you have a handoff, or you understand who's going to be working with the client to acquire the talent, to understand what the client wants for the talent, you're going to go in and start processing things. You're going to post the jobs internally. You're going to source candidates. Like, everything now internally is happening to go and to get this engine to start in a different way. And why did I say a different way? Because before you have a job order from a client, you already have to start this process. You should be starting this process from the very beginning. That's called pipelining. By the time you get a contract, when you're doing the same process, it's called interviewing. So two totally different things. Pipelining, you don't have a job description. You're building your relationship with the clients. You're building your clientele. You're building your product base. You are connecting with the products, okay? And finding out who's dope and who's not. But when you have a signed contract, now you're talking to them about a specific job. And so everything is to screen them for a specific interview about a specific role that is very specific. So two different things. And that's important for you to understand as well in the process that needs to happen. So once you go ahead and you onboard your client and you start getting the process going, you've got to get to the point where you start to shortlist your candidates after you've screened and evaluated them, so that you can feel like which ones are best to be submitted, because that submittal has to take place. And just like there's a process for you to submit with your candidate, there's a process that you got to go through with the client as well to get through the submittal process. That's why you're in the middle and you see all of these little arrows. These little arrows that are double, that means that you have to do something with that client or with that candidate. So you see that there's a lot of areas where if you see anything on this side, this is all things you got to do with the candidate. Anything on this side, these are things you got to do with the client. So you have a lot of work to do in the middle. That's why you have to understand this process, because you're managing two journeys, a client and a candidate journey. I'm so excited. This gets me so fired up. I can't even lie. Oh my God. Okay. Calm down, D. Calm down. Okay. So each bullet point is a process. You got them through the interview process. You've heard back from the client. You have a good idea of what the client is looking for. They make an offer or they decline the candidate. You go through that process. You prepare for your new hire, whether it's them coming into your company because you're contracting them out, or whether you are going, they're going to be on your client's payroll. You want to start that process, make sure they get on there. Make sure the candidate starts, is working, and then retaining that client the same way you've got to go through things to retain that candidate. That's when you start to, look at what your scaling process looks like and all of that stuff. So I'm just giving you kind of an overview, and just really quickly, the joint journey, as you can see, I just added again, things that you're going to do for each side of the journey. So follow up with value, negotiate, get the contract signed, get your details in the applicant tracking system, input the signed contract and your details into the ATS, conduct the client onboarding, conduct the client follow-up. But also there are things happening with the candidate, post their jobs, source the candidates, screen the candidates, conduct the follow-up, screen the candidates, conduct the follow-up, interview candidates, conduct the follow-up. Notice I'm still following up with my client every step of the way. I ain't never start followed up with my client, right? So all of these things have to be done in the midst of the process. This is what your journey looks like at the bare minimum. Okay. Now you have the ability to go in and say, I don't want to do that. I do want to do that. There are certain things you have no choice. You have to do legally, right? And there are things that you want to do specifically, but like your evaluation, you might say, I'm only going to do 2 evaluations and I have a custom evaluation. Or for my active candidates, yes, I'm going to post to these places, but to my passive candidates, I'm going to create 3 different lead magnets that are specific to them, right? So you can define what the varying looks like for your process, but this is essentially what it looks like and what it's going to be. Okay. So now you reviewed the roadmap, you would hit completed, ding, and you would have your numbers to start. It's not active now, but that's what happened. Now you see that did not take long to review the roadmap. That didn't take long. Okay, now I got a better understanding. Now you might want to go in and create your company name. So many of you have already done this, but this is always a process. I tell you to check Google to see if it's being widely used. If it's being too widely used, I probably would not use the name. How it's being used, I would define to decide whether or not I want to use the name. I have a plugin that's called Keywords Anywhere on my Google Chrome. It's a Chrome extension. I think I pay $10 a year or something like that for like 1 million credits. And so if I did, let me just say Grow Health, I'm just going to put that on there as the business name. Yes, Grow Health. Okay. So I don't want to say staffing because we don't want to use staffing, but I'm going to look on my Keywords Anywhere to see if Grow Health is on here as another name, how it's being used. Does it make sense? How much volume is coming into the keyword? So how much traffic can I get organically with that name? Is how often is it being used? So that's kind of the first thing that I look at when I look at Google to see if it's widely used. I also look at how many people are searching it a month, and different things like that. And then how many results. That to me is a lot. So I try to find things that are a little bit more, closely look, and not so broad, but broad enough to where I can still get traffic. Or I want to start something brand new so that I'm the one responsible for building the SEO and the traffic around that particularly. Next, I'm going to check GoDaddy.com to see if the domain is available. And so do not legalize your business before you buy the domain. You always buy the domain first because people go look for people who have purchased the dome, who started the business. They'll go and purchase their domain. And then when you go to get the domain, they'll charge you like $800, $2,000, $10,000 to buy your domain back when they only paid $1 for it. So you always want to get the domain for the business first, and then you legalize the business. Okay. So that's very important. I prefer the .com. But you can have .net, whatever. If you're using the .net, that means somebody else already has the .com, and people can get that very confusing. So I prefer the .com on things still, but it can be .ai, .us. I don't prefer .us, but .ai, .co, .io. So there are a lot of other things. Then you want to check your state to ensure that it hasn't already been taken. You want to make sure your state has not already taken the name. So you're going to go to the Secretary of State. You're going to do a search. You don't even have to reserve the name because you already know you're going to legalize it in a second after you get the domains, in my opinion, unless the state absolutely requires you to reserve. Just go in and see if anybody else is using it. If nobody else is using it, then it's yours. And then you can go in and you can start. I still don't say legalize the business yet. Next, you're going to go in and create your Gmail address for your company. So whatever company name you decided on, you went and you got the domain, or we haven't gotten the domain yet. We just know what the company name is. You're going to go in and get that company name at gmail.com, even though you haven't purchased the domain yet. We just checked to see if it was available. The next thing you're going to do is create your company name at gmail.com. This is literally how I set my clients up. Okay. After you do that, the next thing you're going to do, the task is to create a safe space to store your username and passwords. You're going to create your LastPass account. They don't pay me to tell you this. I just feel like it's very important because I've had clients who showed up with the hiring manager. Hiring managers asked them for something and they couldn't find their password to get in. Very embarrassing. You also want to create a backup space for your passwords. I do mine. I think you can use OneNote. You can use the private Google Drive. You can use, Apple Notes, just a backup place. I think is good to have outside of LastPass. The next task is you're going to add your Gmail username and password to LastPass so that you can and your backup space. So you didn't expect me to say that, but once you create that LastPass account, the first thing you want to do is get your Gmail username and password in LastPass to make sure that it already has that, so it can ultimately log you in on your own. And if you haven't done these things and you want to go back and do these things, then you're going to go to GoDaddy and you're going to purchase the domain, right? And you're going to purchase your domain and your hosting together if you plan to host on GoDaddy. If you're not hosting on GoDaddy, like you're building an AI product and you're going to build your website on another platform, then just get your domain. But if you are planning on having a corporate website through, WordPress or what have you, then you're going to go and you're going to actually purchase the WordPress hosting and they'll give you the domain for free for the first year. So that's why I put those together. And you're not going to use the hosting now, but you'll already have it in play. Don't get the above package. Don't get the below package. Just get the deluxe WordPress hosting. Okay. So you get the hosting, add the domain to it, and bam, you're done. And I'll update the link with the deluxe WordPress hosting. Once you do that, then you're going to go to Google and you're going to get your professional email. And I believe the professional email should go to Google Workspace, not through Microsoft. GoDaddy does Microsoft. Do not get the email in Microsoft at all. Don't get the GoDaddy email. I didn't tell you to get that. All I told you to get was the hosting and the domain. You're going to go to Google to get your email. Why? Because everybody's already in Gmail already. It makes your life so much easier when you can just click on that right button right there and just click on show your accounts and then just click in. It's just easier. And most of you all are new. It's just like, let's make life easier. So you're going to go to Google Workspace. Some people will have Microsoft and they'll still do it because they're kind of old school, but you're going to create an email, your name at yourcompanyname.com. Google, and you're going to have you want to have your GoDaddy open when you do it. Once you do that, GoDaddy and Google Workspace are going to talk to each other, and it's going to set up your email account there. Okay. And then you will be able to log into Gmail as your company name, your name at yourcompanyname.com. Okay. So like D, Don, David, I'm just making up D names, but at yourcompanyname.com. Then you're going to add another user, this info at yourcompanyname.com. You're going to pay for 2 mailboxes in the beginning. And you can add as many more as you want, but those are the two that we need. The info is for the website, and your name is for you to engage with candidates and clients and vendors. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is set up compliance ready computer filing systems. So in the academy, you can find it on Staffingpreneurs Academy if you're not a part of the academy and you want to purchase it. But in the academy, we already have the files ready. Now, these are very important because these files, these files are compliant. Like, I go through a lot of audits with the governing bodies who's going to audit you at some point. And so I want to make sure that your files are compliant, set up, ready, and organized. Also, it also defines the process in a lot of instances that you're going to go through to hire. So I try to make it a lot easier for you if you're a newbie and understanding how the business works, and just keep reiterating the same thing over and over again. So you're going to download your compliance ready files on your computer. You're going to unzip the files. I'm just telling you exactly what you're going to do. You're going to rename it as whatever your company name is in your documents folder. And then you're going to drag that folder on the side to your favorites so you can get to it whenever you want and need to. Then you're going to take that and you're going to go and set up your Google Drive, because now you're going to be in a shared environment, right? So now you can go to your Google Drive. And when you go into your drive, you're going to see a folder that now says shared drives. And there you're going to go in and create your drives and then add those folders in there. And I give you exact instructions on how to do that. And of course, that training is in the academy as well. And so that's how you're going to ensure that you share things with, one, your coach, if you need to, but people, you can control how and what people see when they come into your company. So you can add your team members on to only be able to view specific drives. This is very important for your company, because when you let people go, you're going to want them to not have access to your stuff anymore. And so you want to set it up in this way from the very beginning, and you want to start staving things and building things on here from the very beginning. I know you're used to Microsoft Word. I know you're used to Microsoft Excel and all of those things. And if you are and you don't want to learn Google Docs and Google Sheets, then you can still create them on those things, but just upload them to the Google Drive so that it's always a copy there. So when you hire your HR person, when you hire your, recruiters, when you hire your salespeople, whoever you hire, they will have a very clear understanding of what needs to be done and all of that. And I'm telling you, this is the part that people don't want to do. And I don't understand why, but they don't want to do this. And you absolutely have to do this in order to relieve yourself, in order for you not to be a prisoner in your own company. And you will become a prisoner in your own company if you don't do this. By the way, when you do your drive here, I would set it up logged in under your info account and not under your personal account, because you're the CEO of the company. And sometimes these files can be seen in other ways, and you don't want other people to see your main files. So you're going to do it under info@yourcompanyname.com. I just wanted to share that. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is go in and create your AI accounts. And in my opinion, you want to create all of these. Now, not all of those cost, but Perplexity costs $20 a month. Okay, Pi is free. Claude is $20 a month. Okay, Chat, Gemini is free. Grok is, I don't know how much Grok costs. I don't use Grok, to be honest with you, but I think it's a fee for Grok. Chat GPT, you're going to actually pay the $60 a month one. Now you're going to say, well, what's the $60 a month one? That's Teams. Well, why do I want to do that? Because it doesn't include the information in all of Chat GPT. It's private to your organization only. And you can bring other people on and you can manage the stuff that they're doing for your work. It keeps your personal from your business. So it's not enough to just do the $20 one for chat. You want to have Teams. My godfather always calls me when I'm live. I'm live. Are you okay? I'm live. Are you okay? Okay. Okay, I'll call you back. He's like in his 80s, so I'm always trying to double check. So I think Grok has a fee as well. I don't use Grok again. That's not my go-to. But this is even showing you how this checklist is going to go. These are the ones you definitely want to get. Perplexity has a yearly Claude, I don't know if it has a yearly. Chat GPT, I'm not sure if it has a yearly, but I can tell you Perplexity does. And I love only paying once a year. Okay. So you definitely want to go in and you want to get your AI accounts. You are going to use every last one of these, no question, except for Grok. I don't use Grok. I don't know if you're going to use Grok. But I use all the other ones for sure. Okay. So you're going to go in, set those accounts up, and you're going to do what? Put the username and passwords into where? Into LastPass. So see, this is what, let me just go in. Do I have any cleans? I don't have any cleans. Okay. So this is, let's go in and let's do it this way. And let's do one row below. And let's just make sure that we add it in here. You really want to add your username and password into LastPass. People do forget this. Okay. Add your usernames and passwords into LastPass and your backup document, your backup password document. I shouldn't have to tell you this over and over again, but it may have to be said. I'm not even looking at the comments. I need to be looking at the comments. People are commenting and I can't even tell. Okay, let me look. Job scam is when government prints money out and then air paying taxes. Okay, I'm not sure what that's about. Never worked for anyone. It's slavery. Gmail instead of a domain. No, you're still doing your domain. Let me make that very clear. You're still doing your domain. You never want to do business under a Gmail, but Google Workspace is the business email, and then your Gmail email address is that first one. So you first create the Gmail email, and then you go back and you create your Google Space email with your company on there. And I'm just looking at the comments, so they're a little late, but I just wanted to throw that in there. So now after you do, I'm at 9:00. Oh man, I'm going in. I'm having a ball now. I'm getting it in. Okay, we'll do a little bit more and then we'll let go. After you do your AI accounts, then you're going to go to Chat GPT and create your GPT agents, right? So create your GPT agents in Chat GPT. Now, I did a whole video series on creating agents in Chat GPT on my YouTube channel. Those are the videos that are probably going to go into the new academy, but you want to go in, and I say 3 agents: your prompt architect, your sales intel, and your D. Williams agent. Okay. And so those are the 3 that I believe that you should create and or access. And you can do 1,000 more, of course, but those are like the core ones. Maybe I would add one more, which is kind of like a marketing agent, right? You could probably use some agent to help you with marketing. So marketing, but you can probably do a lot of that through your sales engine. I can just tell you that right now. My marketing staffing business. Okay. So you could do it that way. So now you got your agents, and now you got to have a clearly defined niche. Now let's talk about this, because a lot of people, thank you, Nelly. That's right. Tell them, don't forget to hit that like button. She always remind me. I never remember. Thank you, Nelly. I appreciate you being my sister, just helping me out on the back end. Have a clearly defined niche, right? So a lot of times people don't have a clearly defined niche. They think they do. Before they start this business, they spend a lot of time researching, and it's research that you don't really need. But there's proper research that you need in order to really be able to bring this business to life, because you got to remember you have this roadmap. This candidate roadmap that has 3 entryways in. This one also has 2 or 3 entryways in. You've got a full process, and you've got to manage that. And so having a clearly defined niche and understanding what's important to everyone is very important. This is going to lay the foundation for all your strategies, all your marketing, all your branding, every question that you have about what do I say to the employer? Where do I find the client? Where do I find the candidate? All of those questions are going to be answered during this process. And this is the part that people hate the most. So in the beginning, we used to have, we have a niche overview worksheet. It's like 80 pages long. And once you get done with it, it ends up being like 200 pages. And people just like, I don't feel like doing it, which I personally can't understand, because this is the research you need to do, the proper research. You spend in 30, 40 hours a week watching videos and to all of these random people and just doing random research when this is the exact research that you want to do. It just make it make sense, right? So you want to get that niche overview worksheet done. But what you can do is take that niche overview worksheet, upload it into one of your AI agents, and they will complete it for you, whether it be piece by piece or full upload. You can actually fully upload it and it'll complete it for you, especially if you do a deep research agent on Perplexity. So I just want to throw that out there at you. That can take you 2 or 3 hours, or it could take you 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how you engage with it. But once you go in there and I tell you to update the full playbook. So we have videos to watch so you can understand why all of these matter and how they fit into your niche overview worksheet. And then you can upload the full worksheet. And again, this is set up so you can watch the course that's associated with that. Once you update it on your full worksheet, there's one more thing I want to put below it. You've got to analyze the data. Okay, so it's not enough to just look at it and upload it. You got to actually analyze the data. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll create a data analysis sheet for you. I'll just go in and I'm going to insert a comment, create a data analysis sheet so they can understand what they are looking for and what they are analyzing and why. Okay, so I'll set that up in there for you. That's very important. So you'll be able to, and then let me just make this a yellow, so or let's do a red one, so I know I need to go back. And so you want to go in and analyze that data and make sure that it makes sense, right? You're going to analyze that data and say, okay, this is what I can do now. This is because now you're going to start again. You're going to go back and you're thinking about how you're going to acquire talent, how you're going to acquire employers, clients, right? So understanding that data, you'll be able to start coming up with ideas of what you want to do as far as strategies, right? So analyze the data. I would say analyze the data and start thinking of strategies for to acquire clients and candidates. Okay, don't do anything. Don't put anything together, but just start putting, in your mind, get it right. Then you're going to go back and review how the business works again. That's why you have to analyze that data. When do I do Zoom? I'm doing Zoom now. I'm on Zoom now. My clients are on Zoom, whoever showed up today. So I'm on Zoom. I don't know if that answered the question. I would say go back and now review how the business works. So I would go back again. And this is something I would study. And like for my clients that are in the academy, I give them this roadmap and then they can go in and create their own bullet points. They say it's kind of small, but you can just take it and use it. I gave you little buttons that you can go in and create. But if you want to go in and make it yours, this is what it's actually for you to go in and solidify that, right? So you're going to go back and review that process again, and you're utilizing that with analysis and all of that's working together. And then I want you to say, I can do this. Because if you get to this point, you are like in a great space, okay? You're at a great starting point of setting up your staffing business. You're at task number 13. You're probably in day 2 or day 3. My overachievers are probably still in day 1, rocking it out, right? But for some people, they're going to need time to go through all of that stuff. So this is a great point in time where you can really love on yourself and say, I'm doing this. It's happening. It's coming together. Oh my gosh, it's real. Okay. And then you're going to dive back in. Don't stop. Don't stop. You're going to dive back in. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to complete the org design cheat sheet. And we're going to start with the goals section, because this is what I consider to be the conception and early pregnancy planning of your business. I said it. Okay. So with that early pregnancy planning, this one is supposed to look like, I'll fix that later. You're going to do a number of things. You're going to list your personal goals, your business goals, your impact goal, your company theme, your financial goal, and your financial projections. Those are all the assignments that are going to take place on the first part of that sheet. And we'll go through, and all my clients have that sheet. If you're in the academy, you can download it. But this is the first thing you're going to do, and you're going to put it on an actual document. I don't want you to just put it in your head. You're going to actually add it in the document. These are my personal goals over the next 10 years. These are my business goals over the next 10 years. And why do I say over the next 10 years? Because that gives you time to actually achieve the goals. Now, you may achieve them way before the next 10 years, okay? But I want to look at things from a 10-year view, because that's enough time to generate, a couple of $100 million. You know what I'm saying? And if not, like, depending on how you grow your business, $1 billion, but definitely a couple of $100 million. And so let's look at what that looks like. These goals, okay? Personal goals over the next 10 years. I want to accomplish this. I want to get a Range Rover. I want to have a $7 million house. I want to go to Jamaica and get a little place on the beach. I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to, get my, whatever your personal goals are. I don't care how many there can be 1,000 of them. List them on that sheet. List them. Every freaking last one of them. Don't leave one off that list. I want you to list so many that you got to stop, walk away, and say, wait, I know it's something else I want. I know it's something else I'm trying to do it till you can't think of nothing else, and then come back and add to it later. But you're going to create your personal goals. Then your business goals are a little bit different. Your business goals are things that you want to do with the business. I want to have multi-locations. I want to have international speaking people. I want to have an international office. I want these people to be my clients. I would love to be a core client for them. I would like to take all this such and such as business. I want to be known as the person that does the company that does this. I want to ensure that we have a big event every year that everyone comes to, 20,000 people, 100,000, whatever your business goal is. Let's go ahead and add that next on that sheet. Then you're going to do your 10-year impact goal, your company's theme, your financial goal, and your financial projections. You got to come to training in order to get all of that good information. But that's what you're doing next. And your impact goal and your theme are the most two important parts of this whole journey. Because without those two, you're going to sound and look like everyone else. Okay. Then you're going to do your 10-year financial goal. What I want to make over the next 10 years. By the year 10, I want to have 100 million in my bank account, or I want to generate 100 million in sales and have 20 million in my bank account. However you want to do that. And then you're going to create your financial projections over the next 10 years, which is a little bit different, because your projections are what you project to have, and they go together. Which you project every year that you need to generate in order to hit that 10-year goal. After you do that, you're going to go to the next version of the sheet, and you're going to define your business. Who is your business? What does your business do? Who do you all work with? This is all based on everything that you collected here. That's why this part is very important, because you collected that there. So now you're going to go in and clearly define your company still on this sheet. What's my vision? What's my mission? What's my values? I'm going to tell you, your vision and your mission have to do with your impact and your company goal. So I'm just going to give you that right there. Your philosophy has to do with your impact and your theme. Okay. You're going to go in and create all of these things, your values, your standards. Why do you need standards? Because a lot of y'all are going to do the thing that I don't want you to do. And I'm going to keep you for 15 more minutes, and then I promise to let you go. You're going to do the thing I don't want you to do, which is to lower your rates for customers because you feel like you need them and they don't need you. You have to create standards in your company for the people you're hired, the people you work with, and I'm not just talking about the hiring of the candidates that you're putting on billing, but I'm talking about even the people that are on your staff and how long they get to stay and just different things, like just your standards. And you have to have those because you have standards about the food you put in your mouth. You have standards about the clothes you wear. You have standards about the people you hang out with. You have standards about the conversations you have. You have standards about the things that you watch. You have standards about the things that you listen to. You have standards about where you live. You have standards about what you drive. You have standards about how much money is in your pocket, is allowed to be in your pocket. Does not, like, you have standards. Hello. You have standards. But when it comes to your business, all those standards go out the window. What the heck? We're not doing that. You're going to list your standards. What are your standards? And standard number one better be, I work with companies that pay me on time. Okay? Don't get me fired up over here. All right? Your philosophy should be one sentence. Our philosophy is that we believe that blah, 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 blah. It should not be a whole book of paragraphs. Okay? And then your culture code should be a book. It should really define what you want your culture to be. And how do you do that? I really want you to sit back and to envision. Like, what does my staff look like? You need to start visioning people walking around in your company, whether they're walking around virtually or in person. What your office looks like. How's everybody? Is everybody happy? Is everybody working hard? Is it a competitive environment? What is your company's culture? You need to define that. I don't know. Maybe I should stop here. I'll do one more part. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start, based on all of this stuff here and above, you got to start establishing your services and your lines of business. Now, most of y'all think, okay, well, my services is contract staffing. My service is contract to hire. My service is direct. It's that, yes, but it's so much more. What else do you bring to the table? Because what happens if something happens in the environment and the economy and people no longer want to get staffing? What's your fallback? So, coming from somebody who has gone through a recession already in the staffing industry, and I shut my doors down, you want to have a fallback. My fallback should have been training, but I didn't know that at the time. But now I know that that's for me, that's the easy route because that's what I do and I love. But I didn't know that. You got to have a fallback service, and you might want to have one or two fallback services. But I want to take you one step further. Many of you are an expert in the work that you do. That should allow you to create services that are very specific to your client base. That also involves you supporting them in a people product type of way. I get into that in grave detail into the academy, but I just want to throw that out there at you. Now you've got to create the staffing process that you're going to deliver as a service for each service line. This is important because it's not just one. You have 3 roadmaps. So how you do things for your travel nurse is not going to be the same way, and how you do things for your direct hire, which is not going to be the same way how you do for your local contract staffing. So you've got to be able to write down and process out exactly how things are going to go for you to understand and remember, for the person that you're hiring to understand and remember, for you to be able to tell the employer when they ask you, because they are going to ask you what your process is. There are very few client meetings that I've been in where the employer didn't say, what's your process? And then this is where I can't go and get in my bag, but this is where you can take the sales process a step further. So you want to be able to have this stuff written down because you might want to make it pretty in Canva. You might want to be able to present it a certain way, put it in, so you've got to write down the process to every service type you are delivering, period. Now, as you're writing that staffing process out, you might be editing that process because you're going to be doing your secret ingredients, your proprietary formula and all of that stuff. And that will impact your process, right? The way you evaluate, the way you acquire, the way you onboard, whatever the case may be. So you're going to be going back and forth between here and here until you get your process exactly the way you want it. Once you get your process exactly the way you want it, then you're going to start creating a framework for your secret sauce. Right? An agency framework, and clearly define your differentiator. Once you do that, then you can define your benefits, your proposition, your value proposition, your company's business objectives, the key problems you solve for employers and candidates that you speak about openly. And then you can start defining the positions that you're going to need to deliver the services that you have come up with here. Even if you're starting off as a one-person firm, you're going to start to define the roles that you need to deliver these services, whether it's internal staff and or external staff. Okay. Then you're going to define the pricing for your services. Then you're going to go in and write out your client and candidate journey. You're going to go in and write out what that client and candidate journey looks like for you and for your staff, and for any employer that asks again about your process, you are already in and ready and understand how it goes. Now, a part of this, you're going to do these really all together, because as you're looking at your client and creating your client candidate journey, this is where you also have to identify where you're going to add strategies. You're going to be creating candidate strategies to get them in, creating client strategies to get them in. Okay. And all of that will work together. And then you will now have an idea. And I mean, this sheet goes far beyond, as y'all can see. I'm just getting you started, right? That's why I'm going through the sheet. And maybe I'll do part 2 next week, to kind of keep you going on. What I will say is, if you are in the academy, you're in a great space, because this is what we're recreating. This is what we have in the academy and what we're recreating in more detail. This new checklist, Amber asked, when is it going to be available? Probably in the next week or two, because I'll be done with it this week, and then it's going to take him a week or so to design it and make it exactly the way I want. And then we go back and forth to make sure everything is in there, and then it's launched. So that will happen. We've got a lot of things happening in the back end, and with this new academy and trying to get everything off the ground. It's not as easy as it looks. It takes a lot of hard work, but I'm doing it. I'm staying up late and waking up early and making it happen. And my team all over the globe is working their asses off to try to make this thing happen. If you're not in the academy, this is a great time for you to join. I would say go to staffingpreneursacademy.com, schedule an appointment, get on the calendar. This is not just a checklist. This is a starting point to make sure that you get your business up and compliant the right way, that you don't miss anything. These are the things that most people aren't telling you that needs to be done. They're going to give you this little tiny checklist because it looks easy to you, and it's a great way to get you into their program, but you're going to miss things. You're going to end up coming back to me. I'm going to tell you that right now. For anybody who's not here in my class, I'm talking about the people who are watching me live. Most of you go to other people's programs. I won't name their names, but you realize that you don't have all of the missing pieces, and you end up at me. Start here first. Save your money. Okay. And I'm not being a hater. I'm just being honest, because I see it all the time. And just know that there are really a lot of steps to this business. If it was that easy, it would be billions of staffing agencies, and there are not. And there are only a handful of successful agencies, meaning there are more agencies that are at the 0 to 1 million mark than it is the ones that are $1 to $1 trillion mark. And that's because most people won't even take the time to sit down and set the business up appropriately from the very beginning. And it does not make sense to me, but this is really what happens. And I want to save you from that. Now, if you're already in the academy, you're straight, okay? You got it all together, and you're going to have one of the most structured businesses on the planet, okay? And when you get audited, they're not even going to be interested in you, because they're going to see that you're already structured and set up. They are looking for things that are not together. So you're going to have everything together. Any governing body that decides to audit you, you will pass that freaking audit. Fucking with me. Excuse my French. But just keep it real. So I just want to make sure that you understand that this is very important, and I'm going to make sure that you get through this process. And this is just a starting point. Oh my gosh, it's so much left to do. But once you have everything set up in order, you're going to be running a staffing business. And you could do this within 30 days if you are not working full time, right? If you're spending full time in this business, this can be up and done in 30 days. If you are working a full-time business, it's going to take you more than that. It's going to take you probably 2 or 3 months, because you're only spending a concerted amount of hours on the business. So I want to be very realistic with you so that you have a very clear understanding of how this is going to work. If you're working a full-time job, give yourself time. Stay at your job so that you can take time to build the business out right, and then quit your job once you've set the business up completely and you're ready to go out there and start generating revenue on a full-time basis. Otherwise, if you're like, fuck it, I'm going out there, I'm putting all in, this is my savings, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to go out there, go ahead, get your coaching, and then take your time and literally go ham over the next 30 days and get your business set up exactly the way it's supposed to be, and go out there and rock it out, make a lot of money, impact a lot of lives, and do a lot of things. What questions do y'all have for D. Williams? What questions do you have for me? Was this helpful for anyone just getting started? Tell me, say yes, D, this was helpful. I want to hear this was helpful a little bit. Right. And just like literally ready to do this thing. Jacob says, yes, this was very helpful. Thank you, Jacob. Amber says she plays no games, just very helpful. Thank you. I love that. Amber says, we're totally committed. Those that are working, be prepared to give your 2 weeks notice. Hello. That's what I like. Miss T said, extremely helpful. Thank you. Okay, great. That's my goal. I wanted to make sure that that this came, that this showed up. Thanks, Miss T. I can't show my comments on my academy, but I just wanted to put it on there. Nelly says, don't forget to hit that bell and like that button. That's what I want y'all to do if y'all watching online, okay? Alexa says, this was very helpful. I love that. So I want to make sure that you all understand that you can do this. First of all, there's no question about that. You can absolutely do this. Okay? You can do this. 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 You got this. Okay? Just take your time and put everything in order and don't try to rush through things. You don't have to rush through things. There's no reason to rush through things. Right? The only thing you need to do is to make sure you understand how this business works and you're setting up the business appropriately so that when you are talking about it, you can feel comfortable and safe. Many of you are trying to set a business up, and then when it's time to talk about it, you don't know how to talk about it. I got one client right now. They did everything to set the business up, and then they start making that phone calls, and they end up hanging up on the hiring manager because it's like, oh, I don't even know what I'm saying. It's like that. You don't have to go through that. Right? Because you're already going to be set up and you already have everything right there. So I want you to believe in yourself, to know you can absolutely do this. When you're part of the academy, we're going to be on this journey with you. Otherwise, watch my videos, and stay in the loop, because this is your time. You can visit staffingpreneursacademy.com to schedule an appointment, to give us a call, to text us, any of those things. I absolutely love hanging out with y'all on Mondays. I mean, in a way that I can't even tell you. I absolutely love hanging out with y'all on Mondays, and I look forward to seeing y'all again next Monday. Y'all have a very amazing week. Please work on your business, work in your business, and stay focused, okay? I love y'all. Have a great day. Bye. Bye, y'all. I love y'all. Make sure you okay, hit the like button. If you don't have me coming out here working my booty off for y'all. Y'all ain't hit that like button. Hit the like button, hit the love button, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate your presence. And make sure you comment under my video and share this video with as many people as possible, because I want to help as many people as possible. Love y'all. Bye.